Larry, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah, I'm working.
Are you sure about that?
Yep.
It's like you got Cowboy Bebop going on here.
No, see? Working on pictures. So this is actually a 944 that we spotted at Formula Drift Seattle. And it actually has a pretty interesting engine swap. He took out the stock inline 4 motor and put in a 2.5 liter Mazda KL V6 turbo engine, which is just such a weird swap.
Alright, so what's your name?
My name is Matt Belanger. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. This is my 87 944 Turbo.
What inspired you to do such a interesting swap?
Previous owner had built the car as a track car, and when I bought it from him, he had this stack of receipts, and every year had been totaled up, and every year was more than I was paying for the car, and most of that was engines. I like the engines. I like the kind of the characteristic of the small 2.5 liter turbo, the kind of way they hit in the mid-range. So I didn't think something like an LS was got an appropriate match for the car. So I was looking at a couple. I looked at the Audi 5-cylinder, and a good friend of mine kept raving about this Mazda KL engine, the split case and the nice crankshaft and these really beautiful ports and heads. So I decided to take a look at one, and kind of one of those things, as you take it apart, you realize how much went into it. Couldn't not do it at that point.
What car did it come in? Like the Mazda Speed 6 or something?
Came out of MX-6 in Japan.
That's interesting. So did this 944 originally come with a 2.5 liter inline 4?
It came with a 2.8. It had a stroker in it.
Oh, okay.
And
Alright.
I drove that for a year, and then last track day of the year, pulled into the pits at the end of the day, pouring white smoke up the back, popped the head gasket, scored the cylinder walls. I started looking at rebuilding the engine and talking to kind of the big 944 parts suppliers, and they were pretty frustrating to deal with.
Yeah. So you basically took it upon yourself to kind of keep the same literage, right? But,
yeah,
you know, add 2 cylinders, but just updated technology. This is like your interpretation on what a modern 944 should be like.
Yeah, I wanted to keep the same kind of engine characteristic. I wanted more revs, I wanted more power, I wanted a different sound. That kind of seemed like the best way to do it.
Wow. All right, so let's take a look at the motor. Look at this thing. It is just so crazy. It's a little bit shoehorned in there, kind of. I mean, with all your piping and everything that you custom made.
Yeah, as I'm putting it together, like, the engine itself takes up very little space. The only thing that I really had to lose was the brake booster. But as I started adding the whole turbo setup, it filled up the remainder of the space pretty quickly.
It is pretty cool how it just sits right in front, though. So tell me a little bit about what other struggles did you have to do to get it to work or get it to fit?
The biggest one, other than the brake booster, I guess there's 2 big ones. The adapter plate. Nobody has the bell housing pattern information for the 944. I actually managed to find it for the Mazda engine. So I took a bell housing to a shop with a CMM arm and had them pattern that all. I drew up an adapter in CAD and then machined it.
That's awesome that it's stock transmission, basically, then, right?
Yeah, I mean, the transmission being in the back of one of these was kind of a big part of what they were. The intake manifold was the other one. The original one wraps over this valve cover and faces towards the firewall, which was not really an option for rear-wheel drive. Making something that not only fit under the hood, had a reasonable volume and a decent-sized throttle body was tricky.
Huh, very cool. So where did you move the brake booster, then?
I don't have a brake booster anymore. I have dual master cylinders with a balance bar. I've modified the pedal ratio on the brake pedal. And then I've got a Willwood balance bar that stacks the 2 master cylinders vertically.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I drew up an adapter to bolt that to the firewall and just had it water jet out.
So you made everything in terms of like mechanical, in terms of engine stuff for this at your shop?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so awesome. Very cool. So what about the body?
The headlights are ones that I made. I'd like to redo them eventually, but
it has that like FC vibe to it, huh?
Yeah, I would like to keep the pop-ups. I just don't have space, ultimately. I love pop-ups.
Believe me, I love pop-up headlights. I think that's like my favorite part of a lot of these cars, including like, I guess the last car with pop-up headlights is like the Corvette, the C5 Corvette. Like I love that look. You know, that you can basically change the look of the car, but it's crazy that you're running out of space to the point where you can't even have those in there. So like, what about all the other little bits? Like braking is pretty much stock, or?
It's 928 GTS fronts, stock 944 turbo rears. They're 4 pistons and a pretty good size all around, especially with how much weight has come out of the car. This engine is about 120 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
And then with the Lexan and the fiberglass bodywork that I have.
Yeah, so like tell me what's Lexan and what's fiberglass. Obviously the rear hatch is Lexan.
The hatch is Lexan. The spoiler is fiberglass. It's a 968 Turbo RS replica. And then this bumper is meant to look like the European bumper, but it's fiberglass, and there's a textured paint to look like the original rubber strip.
Wow, that's cool.
And the front bumper is fiberglass from a company called FSH in Germany. And then the hood is carbon Kevlar from DP Motorsports, the old 935 bodywork.
Yeah, beautiful. I've had a chance to check out DP, and they're awesome. To keep with the whole JDM theme, I guess, you have Japanese motor, Japanese paint job. So tell us a little bit about this paint here.
It's a Lexus LFA color called Brownstone. Anytime I'm looking for paint for a car, what I like to do is I like to go to auto shows or look for OEM colors, because the manufacturers put so much effort into the way light changes over the curves on cars and everything like that. So you know, you look for your colors that you like on something that's kind of a plain shape, and you know it'll really pop on something that's got some shape to it. I kind of stumbled across this one looking at some other LFA colors. I had a tough time tracking it down because they only did one, and it's not done by Toyota's normal paint company. It was done by a small shop in Japan.
That's crazy.
It took 3 months of pestering 4 different body shops to finally get a paint code for it. It's red in sunlight and green under sunlight.
That's awesome. And you got some JDM wheels too.
Nice thick 5 spokes.
Very cool car, man. Thank you so much for showing it.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah. One more thing that you showed me that I thought was really cool in the interior. You got a really interesting boost knob.
I use it for switching maps in the ECU, but it is a boost control knob from a 935. My brother found a new old stock piece at a Porsche parts supplier. It had a 935 part since the 70s, still in the original box.
Yeah, like for what reason, you know? Like, it's so crazy. Like, as soon as I got in the car, I looked at that thing and I knew it was something interesting.
You can find every single one of these photos for free in 4K on our new website, Hoonigan.com. You just go click the read button here, and then every one of these stories is available. Just click on the photo, and then you can download each one in 4K.